I want to make this video to talk about how it is so possible to get a first and do it while still having a life and not burn out and enjoy uni and try a bunch of different things. And I really just want to break down how I did it. When you start by aiming for something that's perfect from the get-go, you're like, I don't want to do this. And it just puts so much pressure and then you can't enjoy writing. I had my graduation yesterday and fun story, I graduated top of my class on the dean's list, got a first, and also got my dissertation nominated for the national prize. And one of my favorite lectures at university was like a 2-hour lecture all about elevators and the politics of elevators. So let yourself be surprised if you want to do all the readings before the start of term. First of all, don't do that. Okay, I just need to get it done. And I get it done, and then I take a break, and then I go back to it, and I'm like, okay, how can I make done better? Then I take a break, and then I'm like, how can I make better good? Then I take a break, and then I go, how can I make good into great? I have a little brother that's about to go into university. These are things that I wish I could tell him, but he doesn't listen to me. So you guys have to listen to me instead. Hi guys, welcome to the Empower Sounds podcast. My name is Mahika, and today we're going to talk all things university, getting a first, graduating top of your class, getting on the dean's list, all these fun things, because I had my graduation yesterday. And fun story, I graduated top of my class on the dean's list, got a first, and also got my dissertation nominated for the national prize. This is not like an ego thing. I'm not flexing on you guys. I just want to share this with you because I managed to get this result while still having the most fun at university. I tried so many societies. I did a year abroad. I did not spend 50 hours in the library each week. I made time to start a business. I started a podcast. I made a lot of different friends. I really enjoyed my experience. And so I want to make this video because I want to talk about the ways that I managed to get the results that I did and walk away from university feeling really good about the job that I did with my academic results, having learned a lot, having really benefited, but also having really enjoyed my time socially, emotionally, having learned a lot, having tried a lot of different things, having gone through many different eras. And so I want to make this video to talk about how it is so possible to get a first and do it while still having a life and not burn out and enjoy uni and try a bunch of different things. And I really just want to break down how I did it. I want to give my health and safety warning though. I did geography, and before you make any coloring in jokes, hee hee haha, geography is pretty difficult and I really enjoyed it, but it's an essay degree. So if you don't do an essay degree, then maybe not all of this advice will be relevant to you and you might want to watch a different video or just watch this for general tips. But my essay girlies and guys, this is your video. This is your episode. I'm going to break down all the things that I wish I knew, things that really helped me, things that I learned along the way. And yeah, like I have a little brother that's about to go into university. These are things that I wish I could tell him, but he doesn't listen to me. So you guys have to listen to me instead. So for context, I went to UCL, University College London, and I studied geography. I started 4 years ago and I was very scared coming to university because I went to a school that was very like, they gave us a lot of support. They told us exactly what they wanted us to do in exams, how they wanted us to write our pieces of work, our essays, like very specific feedback. And then you go to university and you're just kind of left alone to do your own thing. I remember my first essay ever at university was just what makes an event an event? Write about it. 1,500 words. No instructions, no guidance, no telling people like what they want. And that was really daunting. And so I found that really throwing me into the deep end. And then since then, for the past 4 years, I've learned so much of like navigating difficult deadlines, essays, topics, reading lists. And so my first thing is you don't have to do all the readings on your reading list and to work smart rather than hard. So first of all, if you do an essay degree, if you go to a university like UCL, again, this is very specific to my experience, then you will have a lot of options on the kind of classes that you take. And so go onto your module catalogs and read them. Read the essay titles, look at the reading list because you get that even before you start the class. And you can have a look and you can see if that's actually something you're interested in. Because the number one mistake you can make is just doing something you find boring. Don't do that because if you find it boring, you're going to find it really difficult to motivate yourself. I will say though, sometimes you can be surprised. Like I did this class called Geography of Infrastructure and it sounds kind of boring, but it was so interesting. I learned so much about like the way that cities work and like infrastructure. Sounds like such an unsexy thing, but it was so interesting. And one of my favorite lectures at university was like a 2 hour lecture all about elevators and the politics of elevators. So let yourself be surprised, but at the same time, go and read the module catalogs and it will give you a reading list. And if you're keen, or if you want to do all the readings before the start of term, first of all, don't do that. Second of all, when you're doing your readings throughout the year, start by making some sort of like table or catalog to document what you remember and what you like learn from each of your readings. Because the way that university often works is you do all of your lessons for like 10, 12 weeks, and then you have a final exam at the end of term or a final essay. And I don't know about you, but my memory is not that good that I can just retain 10, 12 weeks of knowledge. So if you make a system of documenting it, I don't mean notes, because your lecture notes are not going to be the most relevant. I mean the readings that you do for your seminars, for your lectures. Do it in a way that works for you. For me, I found the system that works for me best was a Notion database, because what I would do is I'd make a column, and I'm going to put a screenshot here. I'd make like a column with the titles, a column with like the text of like the key themes of what it's about. With Notion, each like column in the database can become a page, so I'd write more notes in it, and then I'd put all the information for the references. When I was doing the reading, it wouldn't take me that long because I had like 2 readings a week sometimes. But then when it came to writing the essays, I had all of the readings ready made, like on the wider area of the topic, so I didn't have to go back and reread 60, 70 papers to see which ones are relevant and which ones weren't relevant. I could just see with my little notes, like, okay, this one is on these themes, that theme. And a trick that one of my professors taught me was, rather than reading the entire paper, because a lot of academic papers are between like 30 and 60 pages. And I don't know how quickly you can read, but 30, 60 pages is like 1, 2 hours of reading. And it's pretty dense text. It's not like fiction books. So a trick of navigating it is, when you're not sure if something is relevant, first of all, read the abstract, then read the conclusion. And if both of those are relevant, then you can start reading the body of the text and you can just skim it. And now there's many tools that you can use as like a summary to see like, oh, is this relevant? Should I read it? Should I not read it? All these kind of things. Obviously, check your department's AI policy, because each university, each department has different AI policies, but my department let us use it for specific things. And so get really, really, really familiar with the systems of your department, because if you come to university and you don't get given instructions, then you can fall into the trap of being really, really clever, but like not doing what they ask of you. And I had this a few times where I wrote an essay that I just thought was like so cool, so brilliant. But I just didn't answer the question that they wanted me to answer, and I didn't do what they wanted me to do. And so I didn't get the grade that I felt like I deserved. And that was really annoying. But I started to understand the system more and more. And so, number one, find a way that works for you to remember the information. Like I said, for me, it was a reading database. I would make like a table in my Notion, but you can use Excel, you can use a physical book. I have really ugly handwriting, which is why I didn't use a physical book. And you just document as you go. And then when you start deciding what essay you want to write, then you can go deeper into what you want. And then for finding good readings, I would go on Google Scholar and I would type out like the keywords, and then I would find one paper that was relevant, and then I would go into the bibliography of that paper and I would read all the relevant papers from that. I found that that was a way easier way of finding relevant and good sources, rather than just reading all the ones that come up first on Google Scholar. Find the one that's the closest to the text that you care about, and then go and read the bibliography of that one. Because what academics love is like when you discuss different scholars and like use different ideas to talk about the same thing. So if you engage with the bibliography and the conversations of the scholars themselves, then it really, really helps. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically, best way to find sources is Google Scholar, but also your university will have like a library portal online. And with Google Scholar, there's a lot of like publications that you can't access without like an account or whatever. And so if you log in through your university library account, then you can use that, and that will really, really help you find the relevant readings. Also, some professors like it when you double cite things. I personally don't like it because I think it's a bit of a waste of words. And if you go to a UK university, a lot of the essay degrees have very strict word counts, and they're not a lot. But a lot of professors like if you put an idea and then you put like one citation and then another citation, another citation. And so my second bit of advice is learn the style of the professor. So when you go to the lectures, each professor will have a different style of work. And with an essay degree, it is so subjective because it's based on the style of the professor, the way that they teach, the way that they interact with their subject. And I've had times where I've written an essay and I feel like it would have got a different grade if it was marked by a different professor in my department. And that's not any shade to any of my professors, they're all amazing. But each person has a different style. And so understanding like what do they like, what do they not like, what do they find interesting in terms of the way that you format your papers, not the content. Content, like I feel like is something that is a standard that you either have or you don't. But in terms of formatting, because people don't realize how much marks you can get for good formatting. So your professors will usually have like a seminar or a lecture dedicated on how to write the essay for the topic. And if they don't, each professor will have office hours. Go to the office hour, take your essay plan, say, this is how I want to do it, this is how I want to structure it, and go through it with them. It's a 10-minute commitment, but a lot of the modules at university are like 1 or 2 essays, and that's it. That's your module. And so if you write something that is formatted in the way that it's supposed to be, you are way more likely to get the marks that you deserve. Because sometimes, again, your brilliant ideas, if they're not packaged in the right way, don't get the validation is a bad word, but like the validation that they deserve. And so go chat to your professors and learn the different styles of doing things. There's no one right way of doing it. I did a study abroad and I completely changed the way that I format my essays there. I went from going like Harvard citations, Times New Roman, size 12, 1.5 spacing to like APA. You have to have it justified. It has to be like certain 10 pages per project, all this kind of thing. And so, like I said, just figure out the system. And also, I cannot stress this enough. Please, 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 please go find the marking criteria for the essay that you are going to write. Or just like, even if your department doesn't do marking criteria for each assignment, go and find the generic marking criteria. It is going to be so vague and wishy-washy. It's going to be like, yeah, write a good essay, that kind of thing. But go and take some time and annotate this. My tutor did this with me in one of my first tutor meetings of university, and I felt like it really, really helped me because he kind of explained what each of these categories mean and what all of these like wishy-washy terms are. So get someone to explain it to you or get AI to explain it to you. Again, now universities are becoming more okay with us using AI, so read your department's AI policy. My department let me work with my marking criteria and use AI as like a marker. So what I would do is whenever I would write a piece of work, I would put the marking criteria into ChatGPT and I would say, pretend you are a professor of geography at this university using this marking criteria on this topic. What would you give this essay if you were a professor? And then the AI would be like, okay, based on my experience, based on this marking criteria, this is how you can improve it. And then I would use the improvements and then I would declare that I did that on the AI form and I didn't lose any marks for doing that. Like I said that I did that on my dissertation and I got a grade that I was really, really happy with. So use the tools. And also, again, plagiarism is a really, really big thing at university. You can get into a lot of trouble for it. And so there's a lot of tools that you can use to make sure that you're not plagiarizing and even self-plagiarizing. Because if you write something and then you think, oh, like this is relevant to another one of my assignments, maybe I can just use that. That's like a big deal. So there's this thing called Turnitin, and you can just put your work in there and it will give you a score as if the university was seeing like the plagiarism score. So make sure your score is less than like 6 or 7% because you really, really, really don't want to get flagged up for plagiarism. These are really boring points and a lot of people already know these things, but if you don't, it's so worth knowing because like I said, if your brilliant ideas aren't packaged in the right way, then sometimes you don't get the credit you deserve because university has to deal with a lot of students, a lot of people in one class. And so there is like a standardized way of doing things. Obviously, they like you bringing your own fresh ideas to the content of what you write, but they want the packaging and the way that you format it to be pretty standardized. And they don't really talk about how they want that to be. And so follow these like basic rules and spend some time figuring out how your department likes certain things done, because once you know that, you just know that for the rest of your time and you don't have to worry about it. Also, please, please, please spend some time figuring out how to do citations, because I have lost marks in the past for not correctly citing things. And that's such a stupid way to lose marks on a piece of work that you've worked so, so, so hard on. And so people use Zotero and all these tools. I personally just use Word, and you can use like insert references, put all the information in, choose the style that you want it to do, and it does it for you. But just spend like half an hour, 1 hour, watch a video on how to do the system that you need to do for your university, because like I said, you really don't want to lose marks on putting a comma or a full stop, or like putting the author's name the wrong way in your bibliography list. Like that's such a stupid way of not getting the marks that you deserve. So that is number two. Number three is like kind of a counterpoint to this. Because professors mark so many essays, they have like 10, 15 minutes max to mark your essay, and they usually mark like 50, 60, maybe 100 pieces of work before and after, and yours is like in the middle. And so to get a good grade, you have to make it interesting. So add your personality in. If you're interested in some like other random side quests, try and pick essays that are relevant to your outside interests as well, because then you can bring your personality into it. Write in a way, you don't have to use all these big words. Like when I first joined uni, I was like, okay, I have to write like I'm smart. So I would put all these like crazy words in my essays, like ostensibly, consequently, subsequently, all these things. But that doesn't get you good grades sometimes. I think if you just put a little bit more time into finding good examples of what you want to talk about. So, like, for example, if you are talking about migration, like, find something that is a really good example. And again, I did geography, so this is a very geography specific tip. But when you're using your examples, find up to date examples. Don't give an example from like 1997. If there's a more relevant example, talk about something that's actually happening now. You can talk about the earlier thing, but make sure that it's like up to date information, up to date examples. And when you do your explanations, like make sure that there's a good balance between real life examples and case study, and then also theory, because that's something that they really, really look for. So how can you bridge that? And like I said, bring your personality into it. I did my dissertation on salsa dancing because I love dancing. I'm a very happy, dancey person. I decided to teach myself Spanish before coming to university, and then when I was at university and I did my year abroad in Madrid. And so music was one of the ways I did that. And I decided to teach myself salsa, joined the University Salsa Society. And so I did my dissertation on salsa. And it was the most fun I had. And I brought my personality into it. And what I did for my data collection was do like group interviews as dinner parties at my house. I'd invite people to my house. We'd have a dinner party. We'd do group interviews. And then we'd do dance along interviews where I'd interview people whilst dancing. And I did like drawings and mind maps for it. And I really like with the subtitles of the captions, I made them fun. Like you can bring your personality into it, because as long as you follow the standardized formatting and the criteria of what they actually want in terms of like how you package things, bringing your personality into the work that you do makes it so unique. And we are all so interesting. We all have such unique backgrounds and contexts and all these things. So do that, because when you write something that's a little bit more interesting, a little bit more personal, especially now that there's AI, especially now that a lot of people use ChatGPT in their planning and writing and all these things, when you bring your personality into your work, it stands out so much more. And so, my advice, again, different universities have different policies with artificial intelligence, is don't use AI for planning or writing. Use your ideas, use your personality, and then use AI just for formatting and marking, checking that you don't make any grammar mistakes and tweaks, because that's how it's going to stand out. Also, one thing that really, 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 really helped me is giving myself time to write things. So I would say, like, if I have to write an essay of like 1,500 words, 2,000 words, I would break it down into sections, and I would spend more time planning the essay than writing the essay, because structure is so important. Structure is like make or break in a good essay. And so if you can figure out how to structure your thing so that it flows in a way that one argument links onto another, and you're kind of developing your argument in a way, then you do so much better. It makes it so much nicer for the reader to read. And that way you don't have to spend as many words like signposting, being like, in the next section, I'm going to talk about this, whatever. And so, signposting and structuring. And then what I did was I would spend some time writing one section and then I take a break and then I'd write the next section. Because when you look at something that you write with a fresh pair of eyes, you can make it better and better and better. So my next bit of advice is like, stop aiming for perfect, stop aiming for a first when you write your essays, because you are going to procrastinate. When I came to uni and I kept being like, oh, I need to get a first, I would sit there in the library and I'd procrastinate for hours and hours and hours and I'd be like, I don't know how to start. And I would write the same sentence again and again and again and again for hours. So now what I do is I'm like, okay, I just need to get it done. And I get it done. And then I take a break. And then I go back to it. And I'm like, okay, how can I make done better? Then I take a break. And then I'm like, how can I make better good? Then I take a break. And then I go, how can I make good into great? And after I keep doing that and I keep iterating and editing and adding new ideas, it really helps. And so you can take that pressure off, because when you start by aiming for something that's perfect from the get-go, you're like, I don't want to do this. And it just puts so much pressure, and then you can't enjoy writing. You chose to study something at university probably because you find it interesting. And so allow yourself to just focus on that, focus on your interests. And then as you go and as you edit the drafts, then it becomes better and better. And I know that this will be hard for my people who like to write things last minute, but if you can set yourself a fake deadline, so you have that like last minute adrenaline rush, but without actually having to do it last minute, then that's so useful. Also, then you don't ever have to spend like 10 hours in the library at once. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I ever spent more, like apart from one or two times, like during reading weeks or exam seasons, I don't think I spent more than like 4 hours in the library at once. Um, if that. So little and often really, really, really helps, because your brain like kind of declines in function after a while, after staring at like one page and one body of text again and again and again. So just keep approaching it with fresh eyes. And speaking of fresh eyes, get people, your friends, to read your work and give you advice before you submit it, because at university, you, like I said, usually just get one piece of work per coursework. And so like mark your work with your friends. I had a few friends on my course where we would give each other feedback before handing it in, and it would be little things like formatting, or I didn't understand this idea that clearly, like maybe you should add a sentence in to explain it more and more. And it's so nice because it's so confidence building, because your friends can give you good advice as well, but they can give you compliments. They can be like, hey, I really liked this, you need to change this though, or maybe think about doing this differently. And I did that since my first year and I found it so useful, so useful. And if you do an essay degree and you're doing different questions, then you don't even have to stress about like, oh, like copying or whatever, because no two essays are going to be the same, because the way that people approach ideas are so different. And so get your friends to mark your work with you and you can mark theirs, and create this like system of feedback and support, because it's so nice. And then when you mark someone else's work as well, you develop a critical eye of like, okay, this is what I like as a reader. This is what is interesting. This is not what's interesting. Because that is also really, really useful knowledge to know when writing your own essays. So definitely do that. And I think it's just a really nice way to like keep your friends like that you do your course with motivated with you, because sometimes it can get really boring and really like tiring to do really long essays and have deadlines. And so if you can motivate each other and support each other, that's so nice. And then also, if you do get a grade that you're not happy with, go and speak to your professor. Go and get an office hours and say like, hey, I really respect your opinion. I really cared about the assignment. I worked really hard. I don't know what I did. Like, I don't know what is the mismatch here. Can you explain? And get their feedback, because it could be something to do with the essay question. It could be something to do with the assignment, or it could just be like a general comment. And if it's a general comment, it's so useful to know, because down the line, then you know that like that's something that you should look out for. If you're writing something for that professor again, or if you're doing another piece of work in the same topic, like it's always good to get feedback. And I would like to caveat that by saying that not all feedback is relevant, good, or right, or like it doesn't attribute to your self-worth. If you do get a bad grade, it is not the end of the world. Oh my god, please, 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 academic validation is addicting, but at the same time, like, please, it's not the be all or end all. Don't ever let any grade, any professor, any teacher, any mark let you decide your self-worth, whether you're smart, whether you're dumb, like all these things. No, we're not doing that. And I'm going to give you some stories of why it's actually not that relevant. So I did an assignment a few years ago on, we were told to write on either motherhood, mobility, or money. And I decided to do my assignment on how high heels impact like pay differentials for women in finance. And I did my own research. I found this own like um company called the Gender Index, and I spoke with the founder of the Gender Index, and like I used like all this new data, and I was so proud of that piece of work. And I got a grade that I was not happy with at all. Like I felt really sad when I got that grade. But you know what? Like because I went and I did all this extra stuff, the Gender Index reached out to me. The founder reached out to me and interviewed me about my work and all my research. And then ended up becoming friends with the founder of the Gender Index, who is the coolest woman ever. She was the first ever female sergeant at arms to the House of Commons in 600 years. And she has the most incredible career. And I interviewed her on the podcast, and now she's like such an important mentor of mine. And again, being able to be interviewed for like a platform like the Gender Index, working in the space that I do now down the line, is such a privilege. And so don't ever let one professor or one grade make you feel bad about yourself. The last ever essay I ever wrote for university, I got the worst grade I've ever got at university. Like I have always consistently got like a specific category of grades, and then I got something that was way lower than that. And that really hurt my feelings. That really hurt my feelings. And so I took some time and I was like, oh, why do I feel like this? How can I make myself feel better? And I realized this grade means nothing to do with my intelligence, nothing to do with my passion for the topic, nothing to do with whether I'm good, whether I'm clever, whether I'm going to be successful. And I gave myself a pep talk. And at the end of the day, like, I still graduated with good grades. I still feel smart. I still ended up doing everything I wanted to do with my career. And it's not that serious. It is never, ever that serious. So this is my important notice for you, because aiming for something is really nice and good, but if you don't get it, don't be horrible to yourself, because there are so many other wins and it's really not that serious. Like whatever grades you get, I don't know if you know who Jeremy Clarkson is, but he posts a tweet every summer after GCSE and A-level results day being like, I got an F and now I'm in my Bentley. I got an F and I'm now in my yacht. Like at the end of the day, there are so many ways around grades, and it is not a metric for like your sense of self-worth or any of these things. But if you don't like it and you want to change it, you want to do something about it, go talk to your professors, because you don't need to ever get that kind of grade again if you understand why you got it in the first place. So to summarize, number one, create systems to remember information so you don't have to keep rereading stuff. You can use a database, you can use a book, you can use whatever, like a journal. But as you go, make a system of collecting cool things so that when you write your essays, you have them. Number two, go and understand your marking criteria, your formatting system inside and out, because you don't want to lose marks on that. And that is something that is really important as well. Number three, make sure that you put your personality, your interests, your side quests in your work, because passion is the most interesting thing to read. And people like reading about people and their stories and their interests. So bring your stories, bring your personality, bring your interests into your work. And that is so important. Number four, create a system of support. Go and mark your work with your friends, study together, motivate each other, support each other, give each other feedback. Number five, make it fun. If you make it fun, it is so much easier. It is so much easier. Don't make it miserable. Like, don't be sitting in the library 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours. I promise you, the time spent in the library is not directly proportional to your results. I spent less time in the library in my last year than any other year of university, and I got the best grades that I have got. I also just really, when I spend more time outside doing fun things, the time that I did work, I worked really hard and I was really energized to work. And so, like, always remember that. And last but not least, your grades do not define your worth. Your grades do not define your worth. Getting good grades is always a good plus. I'm not going to avoid and sidestep around the fact that it helps open doors. If you're applying for jobs, it helps you get into specific positions. If you're applying for certain things, it helps like brush your ego, like all these things. It is a nice to have, but at the end of the day, you are still smart, you are still worthy, you're still a baddie, and your university experience is still going to be 10/10 regardless of what you get. So just celebrate yourself more, have fun, and don't make yourself miserable in the process of trying to be an academic weapon, because it's a mindset and a lifestyle rather than a metric and a milestone to meet. So yeah, thank you for listening to my TED Talk. If you have any questions, more specific questions, these were kind of general overview things, but if you have more specific questions, comment them below. Message me on the podcast Instagram at Empower Sounds. Anyone who's doing UCL geography, message me if you have any questions. Anyone who's doing geography, going to UCL, any of those things, please. I loved university. I loved university so much. It was hard. It was not easy. Emotionally, academically, mentally, it was a rough 4 years in many ways, but it grew me. It gave me the most fun. I had the most exciting adventures and fun stories and crazy times and all these things, and I learned so much. And that's all I want for anyone who is watching this, who's interested in killing it at university. And so I hope that that's what you took away from this, and stay tuned for more episodes. Let me know what you want to see. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the podcast. Stay tuned for many more on different topics around just like living the best version of your life, and stay tuned for more interviews with cool women from different walks of life as well. Thank you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and week. Love you the most. Bye bye.